Lila Purushottam Prabhu, my promise. Could you please, I don't know the link, how to do that for YouTube. Could you please share that on our other page? I want to start getting more people involved.
It just came up now.
Yeah. I guess I just go to the top and copy the link, I guess, right?
Well, I'm doing it from phone, and I just click on the video and then I give it a share.
Okay. Oh, Nityananda. So we'll go ahead and start. Gora Griganya Gana Go to Golodu Hadam. Goranga Gudatama Gopyada Kolpa Briksham. Gopala Gada Ratidam. Yati Singha Gora Govinda Deshikavadam Satatam Namami. Uttama Adama Kichuna Bachila Jachia Dile Kakola Kahe Premananda Emona Gauranga Hridaya Dariya Bola Bhaja Gauranga Kaha Gauranga Laha Gaurangera Namare Jai Jana Gauranga Bhaje Se Hoya Mara Pranare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Yashaiva Padambuja Bhakti Labhya Prema-bhakti-candrika Padama Pumata Tasmai Jagan Mangala Mangalaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Madgavirapi Gopalam Srikayat Kripaya Jadi Tadaiva Sambhaya Pitva Rishi Yustat Priya Janaha Shri Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Sasanatana Rupaka Gopala Raghunathapta Brajabala Bapahimam Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevachan Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nice to see everybody here today. Why don't we go ahead and recite these prayers, Sanatan Das Thakur. Shri Krishna Nama Amrita Bharshi Vaktra Chandra Prabhadvasta Tamo Baraya Gauranga Deva Anucharaya Namo Namah Shila Narottamaya. Again and again, I offer my obeisances unto Srila Narottam Das Thakur. He's indeed a true follower of Lord Gauranga Dev. The nectarian shower of the holy name of Krishna radiating from the moon of his mouth destroys the darkness of ignorance. So we're continuing with Prema-bhakti-candrika. In our last session, we read, I'm going to start using the counting from the Bengali book instead of Ishwar's book. It's a little simpler, I think. Last session, we were speaking from text number 60. Let's go ahead and look back at that. Yugala Charana Priti Paraman Ananda Tati Rati Prema Moya Parabande Krishna Nama Radha Nam Upasana Rasadam Charane Padiye Paranande. In great ecstasy, I will develop intense love for the divine youthful couple, Sri Sri Radha Krishna, and hear the glorious topics of their loving affairs, worshiping and chanting the holy names of Radha and Krishna as the abode of all transcendental mellows. I will fall at the lotus feet in ecstasy. So this verse is setting us up for the verse we're coming to today. So he's speaking about, first of all, what is our goal? Yugala Charana Priti. We want to have love for the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna. Parama Ananda Tati. That's the topmost ecstasy. And how do we do that? Krishna Nama, Radha Nama, Upasana Rasadama. By hearing and chanting the names of Radha and Krishna, then we'll get everything. And by Parabhanda, Prati Prema Moya Parabhande, by hearing the topics of Radha and Krishna. So he goes on then in the verse for today. Let's find this. Manira Smarana Pran Madhura Madhura Dham Yugala Bilasa Smriti San Sadhya Sadhana Ehi Iha Bai Adonai E Tattva Sarva Siddhi Sar. Remembrance of the Lord's pastimes is the life and soul of the devotee. Remembering the sweet loving pastimes of Radha and Krishna is the essence of all the processes. This is the goal of life, as well as the best means of achieving that goal. So in our last session, we spoke something about the importance of hearing about the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. And its previous verse is setting us up for this verse. And in this verse is speaking about Smriti Sar, how this remembrance of Radha and Krishna, this is the essence of everything. Sadhya sadhana, iha bhai arnai. There's no other goal other than simply remembering Radha and Krishna. E tattva sarva siddhi sar. This tattva is the essence of everything. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments on this verse. Let's bring this up. This thing here. Virinam karta vyopadeshanam saraha. That this vidi, these rules, this kartabhya means something which should be done. The upadesha, this instructions about this is the sar. This is the essence of all instructions regarding rules and regulations. Smartavya satatam vishnu vismartavya najatu chit sarve vidi nasaidha shur ita yori vakinkara. And he quotes this famous verse from Padma Purana that the essence of all vidhi and nishad, vidhi means the things we do, and the nishad means things we shouldn't do, it is to always remember Krishna and never forgetting. Sarva vidhi nisedha shur eta yorva kinkara. We simply want to, all these things are kinkaras, or servants of these two principles. So how do we accomplish that? The previous verse, it tells us, Rati Prema Maya Parabande, by hearing about the topics of Radha and Krishna, and at the same time, Krishna Nama, Radha Nama, Upasana Rasadam, by chanting the names of Radha and Krishna, which is exactly the process that Srila Prabhupada gave us. Sometimes it's controversial for some devotees who either don't understand very much about our tradition, or they're coming from a different tradition, which, as we mentioned before, there's many different Vaishnavas, Gaudiya Vaishnavas, who have different processes of different bhajan pranalis. We have our system, and we follow that. And in some systems, especially the Babajis, they stress a lot about remembrance and smarana, which is the same thing. But you'll find that not just in ISKCON, but you'll find in the villages of Orissa and West Bengal, you'll find even at Radhakund, Vaishnavas who stress the holy name. and who are just absorbed in chanting. And then you'll find some others who, as we've spoken in previous sessions, are probably followers, directly or indirectly, of Dhyanachandra Goswami in his Smarna, Gorgovinda Smarna Archana Paditi. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur speaks about those two, that process, and also the process given by Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. He speaks about it in Jaiva Dharma, and he says that one is an external process, that's the process of Dhyanachandra Goswami, and the other is an internal process. And we follow the internal process, but we don't hate people who are following a different process. We offer respects to all Vaishnavas and all persons who worship the Lord in whatever form. And in fact, we offer respects to all living entities, the insects and germs and the demons and every single kind of person. So Srila Prabhupada stressed that this chanting will naturally bring remembrance. I'd like to speak a little bit about that today. Here's a few letters from Srila Prabhupada and some different quotes from his books. First is a letter to Prahladananda Maharaj. Prabhupada said, generally it is a process to simply chant and hear. But if Krishna's Lila comes into remembrance, that's very good. It should come automatically, not that you're remembering artificially. And this artificial remembrance is something which Srila Bhaktisiddhanta criticizes. It should be a natural thing. It's not something that we have to try to strive for. But if we follow this process which Narottam Das Thakur is giving in Prema-bhakti-candrika, of hearing about Krishna and his pastimes with Radharani, and of chanting the names of Radha and Krishna, then automatically this smarna will come. Again, in teachings of Lord Kapilati, Prabhupada says, one should always remember that Krishna is within his heart and think of him. That this is a proper system of meditation. If we always chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, we will always remember Krishna, and immediately the form of Krishna will be awakened within our hearts. Some Vaishnavas, they criticize our line, and they say there's no such thing as first initiation. That's not a very generous thing to say. It causes pain in our hearts because Srila Prabhupada gave that. And some people, they say, well, actually, it was originated with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, this idea of Harinam initiation, but that's not true. In the Prema Vilas of Nityananda Das, which was written by, Nityananda Das was a disciple of Janavamata, and the book was written on the order of Janavamata. He mentions in there how Narottam Das Thakur, on at least one occasion, two demoniac persons surrendered to him, and they were full of enthusiasm to serve their guru and to follow his process. And he did not give them Gayatri mantra first. He gave them the Hare Krishna, he gave them to chanting the holy names of Krishna. He doesn't say exactly which names in the book, but he gave them the holy name first. So that process was there before. And for us, Krishna says, Ye made bhakta jana partha name bhakta satejanaha mad bhaktanam ye bhaktas teme bhakta tamo mataha. Someone who says he's my devotee is not really my devotee, but a devotee of my devotee is my real devotee. And the famous verse in the Padma Purana, Ata Shri Krishna Nama Dinabhave Graham Indriya, we can't chant Krishna's name, but Sevan Mukhi Jiva Do. When we, with the same tongue that can't approach Krishna's name, when we render service, Jiva Do, Jiva means the tongue, then Swayameva Sparatyada, then a realization of Krishna will come. So our chanting is not just the chanting of common people who read about it in Chaitanya Bhagavat or something. They saw the Maha Mantra there and some other literature and decided to start reading it, but there's a personal connection. And so when we chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, devotees are remembering, I'm doing this for my Gurudev. I'm doing this to please him. And he's always there. And I know many Vaishnavas in Jagannath Puri and in Vrindavan and other places, they chant either with their Gurudev or they chant in front of his picture. This is my service to my Gurudev. So when we're chanting with that kind of mood, then there's something personal and we're remembering him. And what do we remember about him? We should remember how he's speaking about the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. And so when we're chanting that Hare Krishna mantra, then we're thinking of Radha and Krishna in that way, and we're doing it with devotion. Prabhupada says in Bhagavatam, 5th canto, chapter 1, text 6, purport, a devotee always thinks of the Lord continuously. While chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, the words Krishna and Hare immediately remind him of all the Lord's activities. But they only remind us of the Lord's activities if we hear something about the Lord's activities. So it's not illegal to hear in those books. It's something that should be done, but it should be done in a proper way. It should be done under the guidance of Guru with his permission, and it should be done in connection with chanting the holy names and not artificially. Again, in his purport to Adi Lila, chapter 17, text 200, Srila Prabhupada says, Namabhas awakens the supreme remembrance of Lord Vishnu. When one remembers Lord Vishnu, he becomes free from material enjoyment. Thus, he gradually comes forward toward the transcendental service of the Lord and becomes eligible to chant the holy name of the Lord in the transcendental position. So from this statement of Prabhupada here, these two things go hand in hand. Prabhupada says, Namabhasa awakens the remembrance of the Lord Vishnu. Our acharyas have commented on the seventh canto of the Bhagavatam, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevam, that there's a sequence. Shravanam, or hearing, is the first thing. And we hear some philosophy, how we're not our body, and why we should worship the Lord. And we hear in a deeper way, we develop some relationship with someone. So that Shravan begins. And then that sadhu guru tells us, now you do kirtan. And what kirtan do? We repeat what we've heard. And by Shravan, hearing from that sadhu, and then doing kirtan, comes Vishnu Smaranam. Automatically, we'll remember the Lord. It goes in a sequence. Again, in Madhya Lila, chapter 22, Prabhupada says one should always remember Krishna and never forget him. This is possible when one chants the Hare Krishna mantra. Therefore, one must strictly chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra 24 hours daily. Guru Maharaj told us about his mother once. He said, my mother, she was always chanting Hare Krishna. She just continually chant all the time. And then Guru Maharaj told us, one time she forgot to chant. And Krishna kicked her. And he didn't exactly say what that kick was, but Krishna gave her some kind of chastisement. So we were hearing something about the different stages of hearing. And the first stage is Shravana Dasa, the stage of hearing. Then comes Varna Dasa, the stage of acceptance. And then the stage of Shravana Dasa, there's Krama Sudha Shravana Dasa and Kramahina Shravana Dasa. Krama Sudha Shravana Dasa means we're hearing in a proper way, and Kramahina means in a not improper way. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that Krama Sudha Shravana Dasa means that we're hearing what's appropriate for us from Sadhu Guru, and we're hearing about Krishna's pastimes. If we don't hear about Krishna's pastimes, then that's Kramahina Shravana Dasa, where it's improper hearing. It's so important to hear about Krishna's pastimes, but some qualifications required for that. Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Chaitanya Siksamrita says, Jada Badak Jiva Krishna Lila Shravane Anadikari. He categorically says that if you're a Bada Jiva, Jada Bada Jiva, a materially conditioned soul, Krishna Lila Shravane Anadikari, you have no qualification to hear Krishna's pastimes. But that doesn't mean that we can't have some conception that such a thing exists. We must have some conception that such a thing exists. And it doesn't mean that there's no benefit for it. As we discussed in our last session, when Parikshit Maharaj began to speak, or he spoke about the Krishna's pastimes with the gopis, the married gopis, Sukadeva Goswami speaking, Maharaj Parikshit was looking around the place there, and he saw there was a lot of different rishis and persons who were very attached to Varnashram Dharma and like that. And so he asked this question. He said, well, is this okay? I mean, Krishna's he's dancing with somebody else's wives. This is completely against Vedic culture. And then Shukadeva Goswami spoke that famous verse, which we spoke on something last session, Vikriditam Vajivudu Viridam Chavishnu, that when someone hears about the pastimes of Radha and Krishna and the gopis, Shraddhanvito, with faith, Bhaktim Param, they'll attain the topmost bhakti, and Kamam Hridrogamas Apinotya Chirena Diraha, they'll become Dira, and they'll conquer over the problems in the heart. So that's proof that it should be heard by persons who are on that platform. But we want to always remember the holy name. The holy name is our connection with Krishna. The holy name, Cheto Darpana Marjanam, is going to purify our heart. And the holy name will take us over the ocean of material existence, take us over and away from all of our distractions and things. And therefore, in our last session, we spoke something about Radha and Krishna's Noka Lila from the Radha Madhava Doya by Raghunandan Das, and how it's the boat pastimes of Radha and Krishna, and how Radharani and the gopis, they were praying to Krishna, you please make some way that so everyone can cross over the ocean of material existence. Such an important thing. So we sometimes think that, oh, ISKCON and Gaudiya Math, we have something which is not actually bona fide. Some devotees think like that because they come in contact with some persons, primarily at Radhakund, in some places in Vrindavan, who are practicing Astakalila Smarana. But I'd like to look at a few statements from the biography of Jagannath Das Babaji and Gaur-Kishore Das Babaji about remembrance. First of all, Jagannath Das Babaji, he once commented, it's more beneficial to do gardening, to cultivate the fields and water the plants at a service of the Vaishnavas than to inattentively chant on your beads hundreds and thousands of times. The result of serving the Vaishnavas is genuine taste for the holy name. So as we were speaking about on Radhastami, a few days after Radhastami, about the pastime of Krishna becoming a maidservant of Srimati Radharani, Vaishnav Seva is not an optional thing if someone wants to attain the Kunja Seva. It's not an optional thing if someone wants to get Krishna Prem. Vaishnav Seva is the life of everything. And it's not something, we don't want to imitate the Vaishnavas. Jagannath Das Babaji comments, do not imitate the Vaishnavas, you will burn to death. Pray to serve them without duplicity. To serve under guidance is the highest virtuous conduct. Independence is immorality. And then he says, artificial remembrance is not the way of the Rupanugas or followers of Srila Rupa Goswami. And Jagannath Das Babaji had Siddha Pranali, and he was focused on Nam Bhajan. But he was also very disgusted seeing a lot of the Babajis who were practicing what he considered to be artificial remembrance. And he said, that's not the way of the Rupanugas or followers of Rupa Goswami. Spontaneous remembrance by means of Sri Nam Kirtan is the only aim of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. So one is artificial when we sit down and someone tries to remember, tries to think of Krishna so much. But spontaneous remembrance arises naturally by means of Nam Sankirtan. And especially that when we do that Nam Sankirtan as service to Guru and Vaishnavas. Gaur-Kishore Das Babaji on one occasion was commenting, said, sit near me and chant the names of Sri Hari in a loud voice by artificially engaging in the remembrance of pastimes. The ghosts of anarthas and the evil spirit of Maya shall seize your neck with great force. So again, it's not something which should be artificial, it's something which should be natural. And Srila Prabhupada gave us that. And therefore, again and again and again, we have prarthana. Prarthana is one of the different types of prayers from the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives us so many different prarthanas. A famous one is the song Gopinath. I'd like to share with you a song from Lochan Das Thakur, which expresses some similar feelings. Shri Krishna bhajana lagi samsare ainu maya jali bandhya hoya briksha samana hoya. So he says that I came to this world, just do something nuts. I came to this world to do Krishna bhajan. Lagi samsara ainu. This is why I came here. But then when I came here, Maya caught me. Maya jali bandi. Jali means with a net. And she caught me up and she bound me up, and briksha samano hoinu. I became a tree, a dull tree. Sneha lata bedi bedi tanu kaila sesh. Kita rupe nadi tahe hridoye prabesh. I like to spell things in a Sanskrit way. I don't like Bengali way. He said, so at that time, there was a lata. Lata means a creeper, a vine. And this creeper is a creeper of sneha, or material affection. And Bedi Bedi Tanu Kaila Sesh, it coiled and coiled around me. And then Kita Rupe Nadi, in the form of a woman, a tree-boring insect, Hridaye Praveshi, entered into my heart. Pala Rupe Putra Kanya, Dale Bangi Pare, Kala Rupi Bihanga, Upare Basakore. Then at that time, some fruits naturally came on that tree. What are the fruits of this tree? They came in the form of Kanya, Putra Kanya, sons and daughters. Dali Bhangi Pari, they grew my branches, and then Bhangi Pari, they naturally fell down on the ground. Then Kala Rupe, in the form of a bird, time came. Bihanga Upare Basa Kori, and it made a nest in the branches of my tree. And gradually, this tree of my life, Karite na Payala Gacha Sukha Gela. This tree of my life became very, very dry and withered up. And I could hardly, the tree of my life could hardly stand up anymore. And then, Sangsareda Dhaba Nala Tahite Lagila, the forest fire of birth and death came. Durasa Durbasana, Dui Uti Dumaiya, Pukara Kora Yelochan, Marilam Puriya. And that tree of my life caught on fire. And there's two columns of smoke that came from that fire. Durasa, Durbasana. Wicked desires and false hopes. And this is the nature of material life. We have some desires, and then we have some hope that I'll be able to accomplish this. And everyone, this is the nature of material life. Everyone engaged in material life has some hopes. All of our relationships, we have hopes. It's going to be like this. I'm going to have some satisfaction. She's going to love me. He's going to be so kind to me. And we again and again become disappointed because material relationships are based on selfishness. So these wicked desires and false hopes, that this is what's left of our life. This is what's left of the tree. The whole tree is just burning on fire. And the only thing that's a result of it is these two streams of smoke. And so then at that time, fukara means to scream or to call out very loudly. Fukara kore lochana mari lama puri. Mari lama means I'm being killed. Lochan Das Thakur starts calling out, I'm being killed, I'm dying, I'm dying. Egao mora, Vaishnava Gosai, Karunara Jalasincha Tabe Rakshapai. Egao mora, Vaishnava Gosai. He begins praying, please save me, Vaishnava Gosai. And he speaks about the Vaishnava as the word Gosai means as good as God. So what do I want from you? Samsara davanala leda loka. That I want you to shower the ocean of the rain of mercy upon me. So put out this fire. That's the only hope that I have. So this remembrance, the smarana, comes after marana. We sometimes comment on that. It comes after death, when we've given up all material desires and whatever, then we can begin to do remembrance. But as long as we have all these different desires, how is it possible? Mm-hmm. In the Bhagavatam, in the second canto, there's a famous verse, Shinvata Swadaya Nityam, Grinata Swachestitam Kalena Natidirgena Bhagavan Vishate Hride. That when someone hears with faith, Shinvata Shradaya, when they hear with faith the pastimes about Krishna, then very quickly Krishna enters into the heart. Bhagavan Visate Hridi. Krishna enters into the heart of that person. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives a very beautiful commentary on that. Sopi Smarna, Sopi Smarna Prayatnaha, Shravana Kirtanavato Bhaktasya Navakasya Ityaha. That it's not necessary for a devotee who's engaged in Shravan Kirtan to endeavor to do smarana is not necessary. He says, because Swaprayatnam vinapi bhagavan swayameva hridayam pravisa titi shravanam kirtanadinam eva smaranam iti gyapitam. That without much effort at all, if someone is hearing and chanting, then automatically that remembrance will come. But again, this should be from a Sudha Shravana Dasa. Should be proper hearing. And proper hearing means that we're hearing for the pleasure of Guru. My Guru Maharaj used to say that hearing is also service. I remember one temple that I was in many years ago, and the temple president told me once, hearing is sense gratification. We come and that's just sense, but we want to do service. And for him, service means cooking for the deities, or service means cleaning the temple room or collecting money. That's a very popular one. But but my Guru Maharaj said, no, that Shravan is the first hearing. And then from Shravan comes Kirtan, Padasevanam, Smaranam, Padasevanam, all the different types of service come from hearing. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati stressed this point also. I'd like to share some things with you. By chanting the holy name, all anarthas will be removed. Then automatically, Rupa Guna Lila, the Lord's form, qualities, and pastimes will be revealed. This is such an important point. And I find a lot of devotees in our society today, they don't really understand this point, because we're coming and we understand something. We're not our body. We shouldn't eat meat. We should follow 4 regulated principles. But they don't, just like recently somebody sent to Krishna Kuna a whole, as an advertisement from a pujari saying that today actually is a special astrological day for praying for your deceased relatives. And if you want to do some kind of Shraddha ceremony or something, offer Pinda, you give me some money, and for this much money, we'll do this thing. And he's advertising from one of our main temples in ISKCON. And I was horrified when I saw that. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was so furious about that. He said, that's namaparad. Because if we're chanting the holy name, what is it? Dharma Brata Tyaga Hutadi Saiva Subha Kriya Samyamapi Pramada. In the Padma Purana, in the 10 offenses of the holy name, it's described that Dharma Brata Tyaga Huta Adi Sarva Subha Kriya Samyam. If you think that the Subha Kriya, these pious activities, Samyam means are the same, are as good as the holy name, or you think that doing some Dharma, Varnashram Dharma, or the Dharma of a wife, or the Dharma of a son, the Dharma of a citizen and following the government, Dharma Brata, to do some Brata, Huta Adi, to do some fire yagas, that these things are equal to the holy name, then you're doing Namaparad. Recently, I saw another devotee, initiated devotee, who had posted something on Facebook and said that yes, it's a fact that in the 7th canto, the Bhagavatam, it's said there that Prahlad Maharaj was told by Lord Nrsingadev that 7 generations, I think it was, of your family will go back to Godhead. He said, but that's if you're a pure devotee. And we're not pure devotees, therefore we should do this thing. And devotees just don't know. They don't understand the teachings of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta and our previous acharyas. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, that's namaparad. Once someone's initiated by the holy name, you may be a pure devotee or not a pure devotee, whatever, but you want to chant the pure name. So don't take shelter of those other things. If you're simply chanting the holy name, everything will be okay. You don't have to perform shred. You don't have to do pinda for the ancestors. And all these anarthas will go away. And automatically, Bhaktisiddhanta says, Rupa Gun Lila, the form, qualities, and pastimes will be revealed. Sometimes devotees, I've even heard very senior devotees saying, well, while you're chanting, you should read some while you're chanting, and you should remember the Lord's pastimes. But Srila Bhaktisiddhanta goes on, there's no point in making a separate effort to artificially remember the Lord's form, qualities, and pastimes. This is the same point that Jagannath Das Babaji and Gorkishore Das Babaji is making. There's no point artificially, there's no point in making a separate effort to artificially remember. The Lord and his name are one and the same. This will be understood lucidly when the coverings in our hearts are removed. By chanting without offenses, you will personally experience that all perfection comes from the holy name. We should constantly pray to the holy name for his mercy. A person still filled with anarthas should not engage in smarana of Asta, Kaliya, Lila. When we learn to hear as we chant, the opportunity to remember will automatically arise. At that time, Asta, Kaliya, Lila, Smarana will become possible. There's no need to artificially try for it. Smarana is possible by the power of Nam Sankirtan. The completely manifested name is Asta, Kaliya, Nitya, Lila. That's the completely manifested name. Bhaktivinoda Thakur makes a similar point in Harinam Chintamani. He says, Rup Name Prasvatito Hai Rupa Guna Karma. That the holy name, when it blossoms fully, then you see Krishna. My Guru Maharaj once he said that the symptom that you're chanting without offenses is you see Krishna. If you're not seeing Krishna when you chant, it means you're doing something wrong. A pretty stern comment. Huh? So the completely manifested name is Asta, Kaliya, Nitya, Lila. Realization of the name and service are not attained without smarana based on Nam. You can't realize the holy name. You can't realize service unless we're doing smarana based on the holy name. Namaparad Kirtan is not Nam Kirtan. As the bud of the holy name begins to sprout just a little, the supramundane forms of Krishna and his associates become manifest. And when it reaches a flowering stage, the fragrance of Krishna's 64 qualities is experienced. When the lotus of the holy name fully expands, Krishna's Astakaliya Nitya Lila, although far beyond the material nature, manifests within this world. So this is our process that Srila Prabhupada gave, that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta gave. And sometimes devotees, they have a great misunderstanding. So much so, we want to remember, but that remembrance comes from service. That remembrance comes by serving through chanting the holy name. Therefore, Kunti Devi, she says, Vipadasham tutasasvat tatutatcha jagad guru bhavatog darshanam yet sharapuna bhava darshanam. I like these problems. Problems are very good because it makes me call out the name of Krishna. There's another verse which I don't know who was by. There's something we came across some years ago. It says, Vipado naiva vipada. That problems are not problems. Vipado naiva vipada. Sampada naiva sampada. Sampado naiva sampada. And wealth is not wealth. Sampada naiva sampada. Vipad vismaranam Vishnu. Vipad vismaranam Vishnu. Sampan, anyway, that the real sampan, the real treasure, is to always remember the Lord. So that's our purpose. If someone's chanting and they're not interested in hearing about Krishna Katha, if someone's chanting and they're not interested in hearing anything about Krishna. It's not proper chanting. It's Kramahina Shravana Dasa. It's improper. We want to try to remember Krishna constantly, and we do that by service to Guru through chanting the holy name. I'm going to go ahead and stop here today. It's a little earlier than we usually stop, but Anapayani Radha's here. Oh my God, I'm going to fall out of the chair. That's amazing. Anybody has any comments, reflections, or questions in Tirthakar Prabhu? It's really good that we stopped early too, so we can hear something from Tirthakar, because a lot of times you have to leave early.
I mean, it was so actually, I was kind of thinking that maybe it's a lot already a lot. So you could maybe stop earlier because it's so many things. It was very nice. Thank you very much. One Vaishnavi actually from one of our Sangha, she wrote me a message and she was quite disturbed. So, and it's very much related to what you were speaking about today. So I was wondering, I will post it here for you, and it will be easier. You can just read it. And maybe if you can, I mean, I answered her something, but of course, I would still love to run it by you if you can give your insight into it as
Sure.
well.
Maybe some other devotees have some thoughts too. Go ahead and paste it in the chat.
Is
There
there?
we go. Okay. We lack clarity in Sambandha, Abhidya, and Prayojan. Therefore, our sadhana does not bring the desired results. We are more or less practicing Samaniya Bhakti. But Samaniya Bhakti is not what Mahaprabhu teaches. In ISKCON, you'll get the same answer from everyone. Read Prabhupada's books. But the same thing is claimed by the Ridviks. That's why I say, unless we have Siksha from an Uttama Adhikari Guru, who's also studied with his Guru for a long period, at least continuously for 20 years, we won't penetrate the deeper aspects. Our knowledge and realizations will remain superficial, and we will make many mistakes and offenses. This is the reality of our modern Chaitanya society today. With all due respect to exceptions, I'm speaking about the majority. It's a global problem. I would certainly agree with that in general. It's a little simplistic. It's not so generous to our society and things. But is it a surprise that people are materialistic in the material world? And then that those of us who are coming to Krishna consciousness are materialistic? It's not a surprise at all. And the symptom of that materialism is that we want to be formulaic. We want to do 6 of these and 4 of those and 16 of these, and we're not concentrating so much in a personal way on sadhu and association, hearing, and that. And devotees don't really have faith in that. There are exceptions to this kind of thing. We would consider in a previous life, they may have had some association or something, and therefore they don't need it in this life. But there's a lot of people, honestly, who just don't have that kind of faith yet. And I've been around a lot of Vaishnavas who try to artificially create that faith. And they have what Bhaktivinoda calls lokik shraddha, or common faith. Why do they have faith in a sadhu? Because there's 100 people here who says he's advanced. And maybe he's got a big beard, or he does this thing or that thing, and therefore he must be a great personality. But we want to develop Shastriya Shraddha. We want to develop faith in Shastra, and that's a rare thing. Most people don't have that. So then what do we do? In his commentary on Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he says that Indriya Vyapara, he uses that expression, Indriya Vyapara, that if someone is not taking shelter of sadhu guru, as this lady's pointing out here, and they're hearing and chanting, then it's just Indriya Vyapara, it's just the senses engaged in the sense objects. Prabhupada says a similar thing in the beginning of Nectar Devotion. Unless someone is taking shelter of guru, their bhakti, it's not actually bhakti that they're practicing. But at the same time, that may sound very harsh and it may sound hopeless. We have a lot of people, we go out and do Harinam, and somebody comes and dances with the Harinam party and they're chanting. And that's wonderful, isn't it? Aren't they going to get some benefit? And indeed they do. And Bhaktivinoda speaks about that in Chaitanya Charitamrita in his commentary. And Jiva Goswami speaks about it in Bhakti Sandarbha. Bhakti Vinod calls it Bhakti Unmukhi Sukriti. It's some kind of Sukriti which leads to Bhakti. And it's not actually Bhakti itself. Vishwanath explains it in his commentary on Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. He says that it's Bhakti, but it's not Bhakti. And he gives a beautiful example, which I sometimes use. You may have heard me comment on this before. He said, just like when you do a fire yagya, the fire yagya means when you pour ghee in the fire and you chant swaha and whatever mantra. That's the fire yagya. But there's other activities which lead to the fire yagya, which are not the fire yagya, strictly speaking, like collecting firewood, like collecting ghee, like cleaning the ground and putting the bricks and making the hundi and like that. That's not the fire yagya. But because those things will bring us to the fire yagya, then in another sense, they're also the fire yagya. And so these things which bring someone to bhakti, in that sense, they're also bhakti. And I would have to agree with her. In a general way, I
Actually,
hear...
sorry, she actually got this message from someone, and she was a little disturbed because she was feeling hopeless after hearing this message, you know.
Yeah, there's no reason to be hopeless. Srila Prabhupada understood. But we should develop some desire for something higher. And we should develop a desire to have higher association. But that's not just something you can snap your fingers or send a message like this to somebody. And a lot of times I find the spirit behind it is more one to beat somebody up and establish that I'm superior to you, or my Sangha is superior to your Sangha, and you better come to some higher Vaishnava like my Guru Dev, or like me, because I can see who's who and what's what, so I must also be a higher Vaishnava. And we're not understanding it. It's a kind of heartless spirit, I find. And it's based on sectarianism and things. So I've seen these kind of comments quite a lot, and there's truth in it. There's truth in it. My Guru Maharaj spoke like this also, and I know another number of sadhus speak like this. We should have that clarity. But that's going to come to different persons in different ways, and you can't just snap your fingers and say you should have faith in Srila Prabhupada, or faith in my Guru Maharaj, or in this Maharaj, or that person. That's horrible. And we do that a lot of times. In this, everybody should have faith in Srila Prabhupada, and we're offended if they don't. Why should we be offended? Maybe somebody doesn't have faith in Prabhupada. That's, as long as they're not critical or offensive to Srila Prabhupada, I'm not disturbed by that. But they should be honest and straightforward and reveal their mind, reveal their heart, and then you can speak with them. No, actually, you can have faith like this or that. But a lot of people, they develop faith, as we discussed before, when they see miracles. There were some miracles around my Guru Maharaj. There's some far out things that happened around him. Not many elevated Vaishnavas. And some of my godbrothers like to advertise those things like anything. But those are for people with lokik shraddha. And my Guru Maharaj wanted devotees who had shastriya shraddha, who had faith in Shastra. So we get that by doing some hard work. And Prabhupada, by hard work of reading the books and serving the books, serving Srila Prabhupada and Prabhupada's mission, and then an understanding will come to us. Is that helpful?
It's perfect. Thank you very much. Yeah,
What did you, can I ask you, what did you tell her? Something like that? Or?
Yeah, I told her that we actually, of course, this is clear that we need Uttama Adhikari Guru, but I said that maybe it will take a while till we will reach to him through different devotees, which they will be sent by Krishna, because bhakti is a mystical process. It's not just that someone can teach you like in the school for 20 years and then you will figure out bhakti, right? So it's Krishna is revealing in the heart, and he will be sending right persons at the time when they are supposed to come in front of us, and by that we will gradually come to that Uttamadhikari Guru, and we will receive the highest knowledge at the right time. That's what I told her.
Nice, perfect. And the right time means when we have faith. Because if we don't have faith in sadhu, then how can he be our guru? And we saw that even with Srila Prabhupada, some devotees came to him. There was one in particular that comes to my mind, who later came to Prabhupada and asked him, Prabhupada, can you please bless me that I can find a bona fide guru? Because you're not bona fide. And Prabhupada was very, and that devotee was a prominent devotee, a big scholar and things, and Prabhupada was very angry with him. He ended up leaving. He didn't have faith, right? So it's not just that we have some physical proximity. It has to be something natural.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji. Lila Purushottam, Prabhu, I saw you had your hand up.
Yeah. Could you please first answer Dorothea's and Jaigora's questions, because it's very much part of what
Okay.
is.
I didn't even look at their things yet. Let me go ahead. Bhakti Dorothea says, Guru Gauranga Jayataha. Please accept my humble obeisances, Prabhu Jai Srila Prabhupada. Srila Sridhar Swami says in his commentary to Vishnu Purana, Japach Chanta Punardhyayad, Jyanach Chanta Punarjapet. After being exhausted at japa, one should engage in smarna, and after being exhausted in smarna, one should engage in japa. From the comment of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, it seems to be a fact that one should not engage in smarnam separately because it will come from Shravanam Kirtanam. But this Srila Sridhar Swami comment states that one should engage in smarna after japa. Would love to hear your comment on it. Okay, and Jaigor comments, I'd like to understand more about how you would define artificial remembrance. It seems in many places our acharyas are stressing the importance of remembering Krishna during our Nam Sankirtan. The tendency is to be so impersonal with the holy name. So it seems very important to me that we constantly bring our mind back to the personhood of Krishna. It's offensive to consider Krishna and his name as non-different. So it's offensive to consider Krishna and his name as different, I guess. So real chanting means that which is done with knowledge, or at least acknowledgement of his personality. How can focusing on a sound vibration, which honestly feels a bit impersonal sometimes, lead to development of a personal relationship with he who is being named if we don't think of his qualities, etc.? Well, to use a mundane example, which is not completely, doesn't completely flow with what I'm going to use it for, but I think you'll see it works. If we tell you that you should love XYZ person, and you don't know anything about them, but you just hear their name, how are you going to develop any affection for them? But if you hear something about them, you read something about them also, then naturally you'll develop something. And even better yet, you'll really develop feelings when you meet someone who loves them. When we get around devotees who have love for sadhus, who have love for their Gurudev, and we come close to them. And how do we come close to them? By chanting the holy names. So there's a world in Jai Gaur Prabhu's comment here. It seems to me that I don't see this being as discussed as japa done as a service for Guru. When we're serving someone and we see the love that they have, the feelings that they have for Krishna, and we're rendering service to them, then those feelings come to our heart. And when we're chanting, because we know this chanting is very dear to them, and because Krishna is so dear to them. I heard a story from, Krishna, what was his name? Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's first sannyas disciple, maybe someone here can remember. Fakir Mahaprabhu had some of his association. Anyway, as a young boy, he met Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He took initiation from Bhaktivinoda, and later took sannyas from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. I think it was Tirthamaj, one of the Tirthamaj.
Bhaktivilas Tirtha Maharaj, I believe.
Maybe. Anyway, when he first met Bhaktivinoda at Bhakti Bhavan in Kolkata, his father took him to see some sadhu. And when he went there, he was confused as a little boy when he left. And he said, because the sadhu was calling somebody, and he was calling very intensely, and the person wasn't coming, and he's an old man, and person should come. That was Bhaktivinoda's japa, which was so intense. And that scarred him, seeing Bhaktivinoda Thakur's japa like that. When we associate with Gurudev, when we associate with advanced Vaishnavas, and we see the feelings that they have for Krishna and the holy name, and then we want to render service to them, those feelings will come to us. And then automatically that remembrance will come to us also. But what it disturbs me is when I see devotees wanting to practice it in a mechanical kind of way. They're thinking if I chant 3 lakhs a day or 1 lakh a day, and I read, 1 chapter of Govinda Lilamrita every day, then automatically this thing or that thing is going to come. And Jai Guru asked here something too. What was it? How would we define artificial remembrance? Well, let's define what is genuine remembrance. Name prasutito he rupa guna karma. That just by chanting, then that it just comes automatically. Krishna comes to us in the form of his pastimes. Krishna comes to us in the form of his form, his qualities, and his pastimes automatically by chanting. If this chanting is Kramasudha Shravana Dasa, it's Shravana Dasa, and we're doing Varna Dasa, we're accepting this thing, but we're doing it in a proper way, the service to Gurudev. But when we try to approach Krishna in a mechanical way, either I'm going to read the Bhagavatam, and because the Bhagavatam is non-different from Krishna, then I'm going to come to Krishna through reading the Bhagavatam, or by chanting the holy names, or by worshiping the deity. There's so many, or by going to the holy Dham, I'm going to come in contact with Krishna. And we're trying to do that without Krishna's devotees, without rendering service to the Vaishnavas, without rendering service to Gurudev, without trying to understand Hari Katha from the mouth of Sadhu Guru. Then it becomes mechanical and it's artificial. So that's how I would define artificial remembrance. When we're sitting and we read something, and maybe we're sitting even in Padmasana and we're trying to remember, okay, it's this time of the day and this and this. And some Vaishnavas do like that. It may be possible for some persons, but unless the mind is very, very pure, it's not going to be possible. It's going to be very, very difficult. And more natural is just the chanting of the holy names. So, I hope that's, before we come to you, Lila, is that okay, Dorothea? Does that clarify some things for you? It's a beautiful quote, by the way, from that commentary on Vishnu Purana. Thank you for sharing that. I'll save that. Is that...
I was thinking that was the answer to Jaigo Prabhu's question. So I understood your reply in that context. So I will have to listen to the recording, because now I didn't listen in the right context. Yeah.
It's the same point that if we're doing japa as a service, then that smarna is a different thing. It'll come automatically. And there should be some smarna, because when we're doing japa, if we're doing japa as a service, it means we're remembering Gurudev's feelings about Krishna. It means we're remembering Gurudev's instruction that I should chant. And that's smarna. Therefore, we don't want to try to remember Krishna without Gurudev. The problem I have, again, I see with many, many devotees, and sometimes they're Ridviks or sometimes they're subtle Ridviks, is they're trying to do things in a mechanical way, and they're thinking they're going to get some benefit by just chanting a certain number. Mother Srimati comments on that quite often. She was chanting 3 lakhs a day at one point. She was staying at Radhakund. She was staying at one point in the Gambhira and Puri. She was staying another time at Siddha Bakul. She's an amazing sadhvi, and people greatly appreciated her. But she's commented so many times, I see so many devotees just thinking they're going to do a certain number, a certain this or that, but we have to do things through Guru. We can't cheat. So is that okay, Dorothea?
Yes, thank you very much.
And Jai Gaur, is that helpful for you? Jai Gaur,
yes, good.
Okay.
Thank you for the wonderful katha.
Hare Krishna. And now we can come to Lila Purushottam Prabhu's comment, because his comment or question was based on those two things.
Hare Krishna. It's not actually a comment. It's it's rather
question.
Like I noticed on both of your quotes today that there is a certain terminology that I would really love to understand properly. And that's why I mentioned that both of these questions of Jagor and Mataji Dorothea were practically about it. I'm reading from that quote of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Realization of the name and service are not attained without smarana based on nam. That's the one thing. And the previous one from Jagannath Das Babaji was spontaneous remembrance by means of Sri Nam Kirtan is the only aim of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Yeah. Could we come to conclusion? Yeah. Well.
I maybe I haven't been clear enough with the things. So that's why we're stressing this previous verse. These things go hand in hand together.
Yeah.
That we hear Radha Krishna Lila and we chant, but we don't artificially try to, and I guess this is the essence of Jagora's question, we don't artificially try to do that remembrance, but we do it as a service. And we regularly hear and chant, and we do it in a proper sequence. We don't just read the 10th canto and Govinda Lilamrita, but we also read the first canto and second and Bhagavad Gita, and etc. And we're rendering service. But we should also hear about Krishna from the very beginning. And there's a vast difference between that and what many Vaishnavas do in terms of Astakaliya Smarana, where they're sitting in one place and trying to meditate on the form of the Lord. Maybe they're chanting at the same time, something too. And that, I'm not going to say that's not beneficial or it's improper or something, but unless someone's mind is very pure and peaceful, it's not going to be successful. And it's artificial. If someone simply serves nicely and chants nicely, then the remembrance of Krishna will come by itself.
Yeah,
I like, let's look at Bhakti Bani's comment. I like it. Bhakti by number, like paint by number. They have a similar result. Yeah, Bhakti by number is helpful. Painting by number also is good. You get a beautiful picture at the end, but it's not exactly really art. It's something a little bit artificial, but some good result comes. Okay, do you want something more, Lila Purushottam Prabhu? Go ahead.
Well, maybe I'm just wondering if one could conclude from, like, especially as it's put by Jagannath Das Babaji, of course, it's translation into English, so
that's a big thing.
Maybe the thing, but could it be that these Vaishnavas, they relate to Nam Japa at least, if we don't say like Nam Sankirtan, let's say that's obviously Kirtanam, but as the being a Smaranam itself, if I say so. Because in a sense, like if we take the seat of that understanding that we are to realize that Nam and all the other aspects of the Supreme Lord, Rup Guna Lila, are non-different, then just engaging our, it's quite, I mean, it's very bold idea in a sense, because there is, what comes to my mind now is that there is definitely many elaborations on those angas of bhakti like separate. There is in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, there is great elaboration by Sanatan Goswami why Kirtan is more powerful than Smaranam. And there is in Bhakti Sandarbha, Jiva Goswami goes into great details describing one anga after another. But still, to put it like this, like the spontaneous remembrance, like based or sprouting from it's not even sprouting. It's really put in a special way. So I was thinking, like, if the idea in the realization of Vaishnava, who has that realization that Nam is non-different from all the other features of the Lord, is like the same what you quoted. The first one was Srila Prabhupada, that selection of his quotes. And he also puts there, like, as soon as we pronounce the names, our mind should come up with Nam Rup Guna Lila, being filled with it by Shravan Kirtan. So in that sense, for those devotees, the japa may be perceived as like natural part of their meditation, but it might be the reverse thing. Like when you are there, when you have that adhikar, when you have that eligibility, then your japa is automatically smaranam at one go. Like one go is that you are pronouncing the name. We could name it kirtan, but for you it's also smaranam, because your mind and your consciousness is occupied, or not really occupied, but it's pervaded by all the other aspects of the Supreme Lord.
That's beautiful. I love that. Yeah, we can see in the Kirtan of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it wasn't even a conscious chanting. He's just great Vaishnavas like that. There's no difference between their Kirtan and their Smarana. I agree with you 100%. That's very beautiful. And here in this translation, as you pointed out too, it's a spontaneous remembrance by means of Nam Sankirtan. I would say that Nam Sankirtan is not the same as what we're doing in our Vaidhi Sankirtan. We're doing something, but when that time when it becomes spontaneous, Nam is non-different from Nami. And we're seeing Krishna, we're with Krishna, and that's our goal. And that comes by Nam Kirtan, and that's Prema Nam Sankirtan of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
So with these statements, we could take it that they are like giving us a chance to glimpse into their experience.
I would say like that, yeah. And we should be constantly hearing about it, because otherwise it becomes something religious.
Yeah.
Which, sadly is for me, I feel I'm a religious person. I'm doing 16 of these every day. I'm chanting this thing I'm supposed to. I made a promise and things. And that's not the same as when someone's doing it out of ecstasy, like Jagannath Das Babaji says, and you're remembering Krishna at the same time. That spontaneous remembrance means that Krishna is manifested. That's beautiful. I like it very much. Thank you, Lila. I'm Krishna. Let's see here. Once Yashoda Dulal Prabhu, this is Gaunitai Prabhu, told me that Varna Dasa is a stage of consciousness when our spiritual form appears to us and we recollect it. Do you agree with this understanding? This is like real postgraduate kind of stuff, and these words can have different meanings. Varna means to accept. So some persons may understand that at that point our spiritual form is somewhat manifested. And different acharyas may say different things like that. I'm not going to comment much more than that, other than there's different ways to look at Varna Dasa. I like looking at Varna Dasa personally, that it means that someone's accepting and understanding what Gurudev has given and accepts that process and has faith in that process. And then later, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was very clear that after Varna Dasa comes Smarana Dasa, comes remembrance. And after that comes Apana Dasa. Apana Dasa means when you've attained something. And then prema sampati dasa, that's the highest attainment. So, yeah, it could be, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says some different things in some places in some of our other acharyas. I'll just say that much.
Prabhu, if I can react for that, to your comment for this Varanadasa, because as you mentioned and in the text where you quoted from the Nectar of Devotion, the teaching instruction, there is a line, and Shravana Dasa is like constant remembering. The stage of constant remembering is not like when we start Krishna consciousness and we do so many things and we are remember, or we constant hearing. So when we constantly hearing Krishna, that's a quite intense level, quite advanced level, and then Varanadasa comes when we 24 hours hearing. So
Sure.
I think that comes after. That is not like accepting Guru.
I was speaking mostly from Bhaktivinoda Thakur's description, and he defines Shravana Dasa as two types, Kramasuda and Kramahina. And Kramahina Shravana Dasa means that it's not done in a very proper way. It's just hearing. It doesn't mean it's not constant hearing. The Kramasuda Shravana Dasa means when they're constantly hearing. And we can expand that even more. That Kramasuda Shravana Dasa means that we're hearing from someone with affection. We're hearing from someone who has affection, and that will come to our hearts. So these things, these words can be used in different ways at different times. In our last article, I wrote something about manana and smarana, and those terms are used a little differently in different places by different acharyas. But the way I use them is one way that it's used. Just like the word bhav. Bhav is a stage of ecstatic love, but bhav also is something, we say sneha man pranaya rag bhav anubhav. In that sense, bhav is one of the types of madhurya ras, of ecstasy, but bhav bhakti also comes after vaidhi bhakti. And the two words in bhav, another meaning is just that it means some feeling. So the same word is used in very different ways in different places. So I'm a little shy to say much more about that. The definition that you just gave, it sounds nice though. That if you say that Shravana Dasa, the stage of hearing, means Kramasuda Shravana Dasa, they're hearing properly and they're hearing constantly, then Varna Dasa, the stage of acceptance, can be said that they've accepted, they've understood their spiritual identity. That would make sense.
And I mean, if you don't clear these words, we could have false expectations for ourselves and for the process. So very important to clear these words, the proper meaning, and then we build up our vision, where we are and where we go the next step.
Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that's extremely important. He says in the beginning of his series of articles he wrote called Bhakti Tattva Vivek, which was later collected and published by Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj, I think, or maybe Vaman Maharaj, as a book. He says in the beginning there that unless one understands what is Chaya Bhakti Abhas, what is Pratibimba Bhakti Abhas, what is pure Bhakti and what's not pure Bhakti, then we may lose faith. We may think, well, I've been here so long and doing this thing and I'm not getting the proper result. It doesn't work. So we have to understand that. It's a very, very important thing. It's a really good comment. We lost Tirthakar. Okay, Gorni Thai Prabhu? You're in the Brahmacharya ashram. Where are you at right now?
No, I am Buddha in Peti's home for 2 days.
Okay, I didn't recognize it. I was trying to figure out where you're at. You're moving around everywhere all the time. Hare Krishna. Okay. And Dorothea made another comment. Could it be said that Guru Tattva is even more all-accommodating than Nam Tattva? Well, Guru Tattva means Krishna Kripa Shrimurti. Guru Tattva means a manifestation of Krishna's mercy. And Krishna's mercy is always there. Guru is always there. And you can't separate Krishna from his devotees. You can't separate the holy name from Krishna's devotees. So Guru Tattva and Nam Tattva go together, I would say, in that sense. And then she's further comments, because taste in a relationship with Nam Prabhu seems to be dependent on Guru Bhakti. Yeah, I don't think you can't separate them from my humble understanding, the things my Guru Maharaj told me about this. Hope that's okay.
Yes, thank you, Prabhu. I very much appreciate also your point about Varana Dasha being that one accepts what Guru has given us.
Yeah, we see for a lot of people, that's a big step. It's one thing that I passively accept something, but it's another thing that I have inspiration and I have strong faith. And that's Varna Dasa. Let me go on to Krishna Kun's comment here. The stage of hearing properly, constantly, then accepting means to accept understanding our spiritual identity. But does Srila Prabhupada, his identity, mean understanding we're servants of Guru and Krishna, or our Swarup? Well, it can mean both, of course. In the beginning, in the book Prema, I guess it's Prema-bhakti-candrika, Jagadananda Pandit, he speaks about how someone comes in contact, they're crying out to Krishna, and they come in contact with the sadhu, and the sadhu tells them that you're a spirit soul. And they understand something about that, and that's partly our Swarup. And that's the same thing that Bhaktivinoda describes in the beginning of Harinam Chintamani, where Haridas Thakur says, Amita Adama, Tumi Adamatarana. I know who I am. I know who I am. I'm fallen. That's who I am. I am fallen. Amita Adama, and Tumi Adamatarana. I know who you are also. You're the deliverer of the fallen. This is... Go ahead, Krishna Kun.
I guess it kind of rhymes with Lila Purushottam Prabhu's comment in some ways. You can interpret these things for sadhana, but also for sadhya. And if we interpret it as per sadhya, then we really don't relate, and it's not happening for us. So we become desperate and the faith is ruined.
Very well said. And therefore, it's so important to understand the stages of bhakti and understand where we're at, because so many of us, everybody in the material world is living in a fantasy. That's this world is a fantasy. We're thinking they're going to enjoy like this or that, or I'll get married and everything will be perfect and I'll be happy. And it's never like that. And even as devotees, we're thinking, yeah, I'm so advanced, I'm like this, I'm like that, and we're not. We can't see ourselves. Difficult thing. Is that okay, Krishna Kun? It's a good comment. Thank you. Pony Taipu, we had something else. I see your hands up. Or was that from before?
Yes. I would like to not make an advertisement, but I am very appreciating the new book of Srila Shivaram Swami Maharaj, Sankalpa Kaumudi, which is, according to his introduction, he wrote it because he sees these crises in devotees' life when they practice 5 years, 10 years, and they still are confused. They don't know how to go there. This is the bhakti which we are getting or not. So he analyzes these points, and not all the step-by-step advancement, but only 4 aspects. The sankalpas.
Just to stop for 1 second, Dorothy is going to leave. And she says she's taking a Bhakti Shastri test tomorrow. So everybody should please bless Bhakti and Dorothy that she does well on her test. Thank you for...
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. I'm sorry, Gorni Taipu, finish your...
That's important. So he's just focusing in his book in 4 aspects of practice. One is how to take sankalpas, and then other 3. And the second part of the book means ekagra and bhava seva, and then the kripa. If you understand these, we can recognize our mistakes or our advancement, everything very clear, I think. That's my
Nice.
comment.
Nice. Thank you. Everybody should get that book. It's a great book. I have a soft copy, and he doesn't give out soft copies, but some I have a soft copy. I'm not so don't ask me for it. You're going to text me. Okay. Is Anna Piney still here? I think she left already. Okay, Shirley slipped away. It was nice that she was here for a minute. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and stop for the day. I haven't taken any prasadam yet. Krishna Kun's going to become distracted. I took figs, Krishna Kun, and I cooked, but I didn't have a chance to take prasadam yet. So it's 5:30 in the evening. I'm going to take some prasadam. Okay, nice to see everybody. It's nice to see you, Ramananda Prabhu. And some things are happening. I don't want to say anything right now, but we're going to have an announcement probably within a week or something about our personal lives and stuff. We're just trying to figure out some things. Lila Purushottam Prabhu. And Bhaktimbani says, one of the best things about Krishna consciousness through ISKCON ID, it is like being in school forever. Yeah, it's a cool thing. School's kind of fun too. It's nice. Yeah, you got Orsi. Orsi graduated from school, but then she's back in school. She's in school forever and ever. Bonnie says, I love school. Yeah, it's really good. Okay, so nice to be with everybody. And as far as I know, next week should be just fine. I don't see any problems with next week or anything. We should be together. And I mentioned before we're going to have a Madhurya Kadambini course coming up, I guess. I don't know anything about that yet. We're just, that's one announcement we'll probably make also coming up. Anyway, thank you all so much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. Vancha Kalpatarubhis cha. Kripa Sindhu Bhyeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo. Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo. Nanda Kori Vaishnava Binda ki jai. Hare Krishna.